All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about something that could genuinely change the game in cyber defense. Rescuing security analysts from that soul-crushing daily grind of endless alerts. We're going to be looking at an autonomous analyst called Prophet AI. So, let's kick things off with this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. We've been romanticizing this idea of high-level threat hunting for years, right? But what's the reality on the ground? Well, for most analysts, it's a brutal, repetitive grind. Think copy-pasting IP addresses, sifting through mountains of logs. They aren't hunters. They're basically stuck in what one source calls a digital salt mine. And that grind, it has a massive human cost, a staggering 60%. That's more than half of all SOC analysts, the folks in the Security Operations Center, are reporting burnout. And it all comes down to just being overwhelmed by alerts. That's a huge red flag that the way we're doing things right now, it's just not working. Okay, so let's really dig into this broken system, this digital salt mine. Why are modern SOCs struggling so badly? Well, when you boil it all down, it's a pretty simple but serious mismatch. We've got machine-scale attacks going up against human-scale defense. And here's the absolute heart of the problem. Just think about all the security tools you have, your endpoint detection, your cloud monitors, your firewalls. The sheer volume of alerts they generate has just exploded. There is no way we have enough skilled people to look into every single one. And what does that create? It creates this massive blind spot where attackers can just hide in plain sight. It's basically where an analyst's valuable time goes to die. So, what's the fix? Well, the answer seems to lie in this really fascinating leap in technology. And listen, this isn't about your basic old-school automation. Simple if this, then that scripts. No, we're talking about something called agentic AI. These are autonomous agents that can actually reason, they can investigate, they can adapt on the fly, kind of like a human analyst, except they operate at the speed of a machine. Which naturally brings us to Prophet AI. But hang on, there's a really important thing we need to clear up right away. The name Prophet can be a little confusing because it actually refers to two different, though related pieces of tech. One is all about forecasting the future, and the other is about fixing the mess we're in right now. Okay, let's lay this out. On one hand, you've got Prophet Meta. This is an open-source forecasting tool that actually came out of Facebook. It's designed to look at past data to predict future trends. Things like, hey, we might see a big spike in login attempts next Tuesday. Then, on the other hand, you have Prophet SOC. This is the commercial platform. And this is the autonomous analyst we're really focusing on today. This is the one that actually investigates and deals with alerts as they happen, right now. Just to give you a little more on the forecasting side, Prophet Meta is actually pretty clever about patterns. It gets the normal rhythm of your business, daily ups and downs, weekly cycles. It can even account for special events like a big product launch. But here's the really crucial part. It automatically spots when your normal suddenly isn't normal anymore. And that little shift, that could be the very first whisper of a stealthy attack. All right, so forecasting is clearly powerful stuff. But let's pivot back to the main event, the Prophet SOC platform. We're going to see how this thing totally flips the script on the daily life of a security analyst. Think about the old way, right? An alert fires, a human grabs the ticket, and then that poor person starts the long, slow process of digging for clues. The new workflow? It's a completely different world. First, Prophet plugs right into all your existing tools, your EDR, your SIM, your cloud logs, you name it. Then, and this is the magic part, it does the entire investigation on its own. It gathers all the evidence before a human ever even lays eyes on the ticket, and only then does it serve up its findings, complete with a confidence score. And here is where you see the immediate massive impact. Triage. Honestly, it's the graveyard of productivity. It's that mind-numbing, endless cycle of closing out false positives and alerts that turn out to be nothing. Prophet just automates that entire process, wiping out up to 80% of that noise. Just that one feature alone frees up an unbelievable amount of human brainpower to focus on the threats that are actually dangerous. Now, you might be thinking, wait, haven't we had automation tools like SOAR for years? How is this different? And that is a great question. The source material gives us the perfect analogy. Think of a traditional SOAR platform as a train on a track. It follows a very rigid, pre-written playbook. If it sees something it wasn't programmed for, it just stops. Prophet AI, on the other hand, is like a self-driving car. It uses dynamic reasoning to navigate the twists and turns of an investigation.
It adapts. So instead of just checking if an IP address is on a blacklist, it might see a weird login, then decide on its own to check that user's other recent activity, see if their machine is connecting to weird servers. It pulls all that context together before it ever makes a call. It's making its own decisions.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? Let's look at the numbers, because they don't lie.
Let's talk about mean time to respond, or MTTR. For anyone in management, this is the metric that keeps them up at night. The industry average is a painful 4.5 hours to resolve an alert. 4.5 hours? By automating all that initial grunt work, Profit AI crushes that number down to under 20 minutes. I mean, think about that. That's a huge reduction in the head start we're giving attackers. And that incredible speed directly translates to capacity. We're talking about a 10 times increase in the number of alerts a team can handle. And get this, that's without having to add a single person to the payroll.
Okay, what about the money? The financials are just staggering. A 400% return on investment. And that's just within the first year. And the math is simple. It's just the cost of all those saved analyst hours versus the cost of the software. It's a total no-brainer. But it's not just about going faster or saving money. It's about fundamentally changing the job itself. Imagine your analyst. Instead of spending their days buried in logs, they're now freed up to do what you hired them for. High-value, strategic work. Things like detection engineering, proactively hunting for threats, and building smarter traps for the bad guys.
So yeah, this is obviously a massive leap forward, but it's not the end of the road. Let's take a quick peek at what's coming next and where Profit Security is headed. And their roadmap is really, really cool. They're working on something called auto-healing. The AI won't just find a threat, it'll actually suggest how you can rewrite your detection rules so that same threat can never get in again. Plus, they're plugging in generative AI, so you can just ask questions about your logs in plain English. And to top it all off, they're backed by a huge $30 million Series A, so they have the fuel to make all this happen. So what's the bottom line here? I think it's pretty clear. The era of the human-only SOC is dead. It's over. It just can't keep up anymore. A tool like Profit AI isn't about getting rid of analysts. It's about making them superheroes. It is a genuine force multiplier. And that really just leaves us with one final big question. And this is for every security leader listening. The technology to finally beat alert fatigue and analyst burnout, it's here. It's real. So the question is, are you ready to let the machines handle all the noise so your people can finally do the work that matters? Or are you just going to keep on drowning?